Bailie, head football coach at Lakota East High School, and I want to thank Coach's Choice for this opportunity to represent our high school, our players, and our coaches. Lakota East is a Division I high school program in Ohio, in northern Cincinnati. We play in the very competitive Greater Miami Conference, and we feel that we're very fortunate to be in that league. My topic today is outside linebacker play in the 50 slant and angle defense. And we used to call them defensive ends, and went to the outside linebacker term because we feel every player wants to be a linebacker, and it's just something that sort of appealed to our players, and we added a little bit of fluff in there as opposed to substance maybe on that one. But as a lead into the topic, just some reasons why we run the 50 slant and angle. We run the 50 slant and angle for the number one reason is we feel we know it the best and better than anything else. And it's something that's been a part of our football for a long, long time. At every size school, every level of school, every level of competition, and it's something that we feel we've been able to prepare our kids in and be able to compete week in and week out with this defense. So we know the strengths of it, we know the weaknesses, the pluses, the minuses, what can hurt it. If something goes wrong, it's not something that we have to go back and study and reinvent the wheel in order to correct. In 99% of the time, it's something that's occurred before that we know what to do in order to correct it, as opposed to perhaps changing the system or breaking the system, which is going to cause problems down the road. We feel it fits our personnel. Over the course of the last 10 years, for example, our personnel really does not change from year to year. Some players perhaps are better than others. Some are exceptional, some are very average. Some go on to collegiate careers, others are finished when they play the last game of their senior year. And so it's something that over the course of time, in our situation, our personnel pretty much will stay the same, and it fits that personnel. It's adjustable and it's simple for us. We know it the best. We know how to adjust it to things. We've adjusted it from every offense, going all the way back to the split back Houston veer, all the way up to now the modern times with shotguns and spreads and no backs and so on. And so it's something that we feel that we're very comfortable with. We understand it and understand how to adjust it. Our defensive philosophy on a weekly basis, where our objectives is number one, stop the run. Number two, control the pass. And number three, we don't want to give up the big play. The big play meaning a long run, a mistake that gives them a momentum swing and a score. And so those three things are things that we hammer on consistently. We feel we accomplish those things. We don't always accomplish them, but when we do accomplish them, we accomplish them because the one thing we always hold true on is that we never accept excuses. We demand excellence, and we also believe that anybody can play. And we coach that to our players every single day. You can play this defense. Anybody who watches us play will see many times we're playing with very average height and weight type of players who play hard and are able to execute the defense. Our coaching is predicated around prioritizing techniques. We like to keep lists short. We don't want to give them too many things so that we can coach a small list of things that have to be done on a daily basis consistently over the course of time. To be successful, the things that we feel we have to look at is what do we have to do every single day to be successful at outside linebacker play? And that's where we comprise our list. And beginning obviously with fundamentals. We think fundamentals and technique are the only ways to ensure a player's improvement. And we consider ourselves to be a technique-oriented defense. We feel that there's a way to play defense. We feel there's a right way to play defense. There are fundamentals of defense, and we coach those on a daily basis. And once those start to get lost in the shuffle of schemes, X's and O's, at that point, then we start losing some of our effectiveness on that side of the ball. And so the thing that we want to do is have sound and well-executed fundamentals. And again, we feel that's the only way that a player has the opportunity to improve. The number one fundamental of defensive football, obviously, is tackling. This has to be done. We have to be great tacklers. If we want to be good, we want to compete at a high level, we must be great tacklers. And there's probably nothing more frustrating than to get through a ball game and realize that we had a great game plan, we had people where we wanted them, but we tackled poorly. And when those things happen, we take that very, very seriously, and those are things that we definitely try to avoid. After being great tacklers, we feel we have to be able to get in a good stance, get in our alignment, and understand what our keys are. And again, we don't vary our alignment. We are a 50 team all the time, and we never vary our alignment. Our stance never changes drastically, and our keys pretty much hold true from week to week. So if somebody were to come out in something we did not expect, we're still able to adjust without going to any type of major changes. When I talk about prioritizing, the thing that we want our outside linebackers to do, and these are things that are worked on every day, their power step. After the stance, alignment, and key, obviously their power step has to be consistent and well done, and constantly practiced at a high speed. One thing that we feel is very important, and I don't think we're any different than anybody else. If you're going to drill something, if you're going to practice something, that has to be done at game speed. It has to be done at game speed so that when we get into the ball game, the lights come on, the adrenaline starts pumping. When those things start happening, we're able to execute and we don't get sloppy. So the intensity of practice in our power step, keeping our shoulders parallel and staying in our 1 yard square are very, very critical. These are things that have to be hammered at all times, and I'll draw them up here in a second. The thing that we want to avoid doing when we talk about keeping our shoulders parallel is not turning our body, stepping around blocks, and so those are all things that we feel we need to do. All right, to look at our base alignment, and I'll explain our stance, and I'll talk also about the 1 yard square and some of the things I just mentioned. All right, so we are, as I stated, a 50 defense. So we have a nose that lines up as tight to the ball as possible in a zero technique. Our TNT, our defensive tackles, line up 18 inches off the ball, and we line them up nose to nose as well. And then we have our outside linebackers, Frank and Charlie, who we align in either a 9 or a 7. All right, now then our inside linebackers, our open side linebacker, our boundary side linebacker, and we always put our strong safety to the field with our Frank, with our open side linebacker. That's our 50 alignment, and that never changes. We never vary that alignment because we feel we're a movement defense, and this is what we need to do. All right, now when I talk about the 1 yard square, all right, the thing that we want to do it's just basically a 1 yard square that encompasses that outside linebacker and that tight end. And that's not a very good drawing, but I think it gives you an idea on what the outside linebacker needs to control. That's a 1 yard square that he has to handle. And the thing that we want to do is control that. When we talk about keeping our shoulders parallel, we do that, and I'll get into the keys here in a little bit. The thing we do not want to do is to turn our body, step around our block, and now we cut off part of the field with the back of our body. And so we want to stay parallel all the time. And one thing about controlling with our power step and controlling that 1 yard square, one thing that also falls into being very critical for us, our linebacker play is to keep that tight end off that linebacker. And one thing that we put in the first day when we put in this defense is that linebacker, inside linebacker, gets blocked by that outside linebacker to tell that outside linebacker. And that's something that's critical for our defense to keep its integrity. Okay? All right, so that's our alignment. Okay, now when I talk about our stance, let me get into the stance. And the thing that we want to do on our stance is let's just say that we're in a slant defense. We're moving to the strong safety, which is to the field. All right, so I have a straight tackle, a tackle who can control the 5 gap in our base defense, which I'm about to talk about. Okay, so our linebacker is in a 9 technique. Our outside linebacker is right there in a 9. And basically what this is, there's a difference, and the ball's in there, and there's my defensive tackle. I want to align, if my tackle is in his stance right here, I want to align my feet in his midsection. And we have to remember that the tight end's allowed to move. And he may move on purpose, and it might be a mistake. But if he moves and I'm too tight to the ball and I step into the neutral zone, that's a 5 yard penalty. So we want to have a little bit of give as far as any type of stepping into the neutral zone. The other thing is it enables our outside linebacker to read his key, whether it's a run read or a pass read, if he's simply split in that midsection of the defensive tackle. All right, so now I've got the straight tackle who basically is a contained tackle on my side. My 9 technique stance is toe to instep, and we line up in a 9 technique. And basically what a 9 technique is is if you picture the player, there's two eyes. I want my inside eye on his outside eye, and I want to get my back in a 45-degree position. My hands are simply here in order to protect my legs. And we don't get much of the old scramble block anymore where they shoot out your legs, but that's one thing that helps it. And the other thing is we want to be able, as we power step, to bring those hands up. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But that's inside eye to his outside eye, and my visual key is the helmet of the tight end. All right? If I'm a 7 technique or a 6 technique, I'm head up to the tight end, and I've got a slant tackle to my side now. The number one thing for the 7 or rather the 6 technique is to keep that tight end off that linebacker. All right. So now I'm going to get a little bit heavier on him. I want my stance. The ball's in there now. I want my stance a little bit more toe to ball the foot. I still have a slight stagger. I still want my outside foot back. But now I'm going to get a little bit heavier, and now as opposed to inside eye to outside eye like the 9 technique, I'm going to move to where I am nose to nose with that helmet. And I'm a little bit heavier here right now against that tight end. And the number one thing for that 6 technique is to keep that tight end off that linebacker. We do not want him getting blocked. All right, so as you look at that, here's the slant tackle here. Now I'm a little bit heavier, and I'm nose up. All right, that's day one. What we like to be able to do once the player starts, particularly the 9 technique, once he starts getting a little bit more familiar, now what we want to ideally be able to do is put them both in a head-up alignment in the 6, and put them both in head-up alignment and read their visual key from that. We feel that we play against good enough players and good enough coaches that can be detected as to where our slant, where our angle is going to. So we want to get them as head up as much as possible as time goes on. So we'll work to do that. All right. If there's no tight end, now things we can get a little bit. Our stance does change a bit. Now we can, we just would imagine him there. Now what we do, one thing we do not do, let me start with that. A lot of people will put him back deeper because he's got more room to run, and he doesn't also have a tight end that he has to take on. All right. What we'll do, if I'm the 7 technique or the 6 technique again, and I am head up to the tight end, and I'm head to head with him. Now he's not there. There's no tight end. All I'll do is just simply stand him up a little bit more. Now he's going to read through the tackle's butt to the near back, and that's what we'll do with him. The 9 technique is no different if there's no tight end to his side. All right, in the event we don't have a tight end, now what we do, all we do basically is just take the Charlie linebacker, and now as opposed to being in a heavy stance against a tight end, just stand him up a bit more, make it a little bit looser, and now he's looking through the hip of the tackle to the near back. All right, the thing that we do avoid doing, some people will place him back here, and I might have said this earlier, they'll place him back here. We will not do that. We'll keep him up on the line of scrimmage, just from the standpoint, if he's back, obviously you have a contained tackle, and we feel that coaches we play against can detect that. All right, our movement key, as I stated, were the eyes. We want our eyes on the helmet of the tight end, and that's going to determine where we're going to go. Our visual key for our tight end, or for the outside linebacker, is the tight end. Pressure key would come from a wing back or an extra defender outside. All right, so that's our pressure key. So we basically focus in on that visual key. Our shoulders are square, and that's our read as to where we're going to go. All right, our power step. If the ball is in there, and the power step is something that needs to be practiced hard every day. We want to control that 1 yard square. All right, so if I have my tight end here, all right, and every day we will work on the power step. I'm going to go through it slow. It's just 1, 2 as quick as we can. Step with the inside foot. I've got a slight stagger with my outside foot back. That power step should take my feet to the same place. They shouldn't vary. Young players or players that maybe have a difficulty grasping this will take their power step, and then they'll get themselves staggered. And we don't want to do that. It's just simply 1, 2. So I've got these towels on the floor, and I'll just use them as landmarks, and I just 1, 2 right there. They're exactly the same that they were when I first started. All right, so that's my power step. So as I'm in my stance and I get that little neck of my back right here, about a 45-degree angle, and I power step, I want to shoot my hands up inside and control that tight end. When I shoot my hands, I want the thumbs up. And the reason is if we grab a guy like this, it's much easier for the elbows to collapse on us. So I want to control that tight end, and I want to go ahead and reach up in there, power step as hard as I can, and get the heel of my hand right on his shoulder pads, right where they reach an edge there. Okay, we don't grab and hold people. That's illegal, but we do want to get up in there, and we do want to control that man in that area right there. All right. So the thumbs are up, the hand placement's important, and the shoulders again stay parallel. The thing we want to avoid on that power step, and I'm kind of going from some negative things here because these are things that we've obviously seen over the years. We don't want to just shove a guy, and if he goes outside, we just don't want to shove a guy. I want to control him. So wherever he goes, I'm power stepping, and I'm controlling that 1 yard square as I read my key and I find the ball. All right. Okay, so that's what we do with our movement key, our power step, but it's basically a 1-2 punch to stay parallel. Be physical on the power step. All right, our keys when we with our outside linebackers, the keys that we have, starting with the reach scheme or a reach block, and this is one that we see quite a bit typically. In the event we have a sweep, so I can be head up or slight outside. And again, we want to get our outside backers to where they are head up. And so now the thing that I want to do on that, and it could be a handoff sweep, the stretch play, it could be a toss sweep, anything along those lines. I'm not going to know what that is until after I execute my power step. So the tight end comes to me, or it comes off the ball, I power step and I control this 1 yard square. And if I read toss, and I definitely read sweep, so I've got control, my eyes tell me sweep, I want to work him in here, and I'll drive him back, and try and constrict with him as much as I can until that back crosses my face, and now I can disengage and shed to the inside and get out the line of scrimmage. The thing that we don't want to do is if we get that type of a block, I want to stay square and skate until that back crosses my face, disengage, and get out the line of scrimmage. The thing that we want to avoid against that is getting here and trying to step around or dip underneath. All right. Now, one thing that we picked up a few years back, and it certainly makes sense, and because of the camera, I'll go this way. So the ball's in here, I'm getting reached here by the tight end. All right, he's a good tight end. Let's say he's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". We've got a guy that's playing there that's 5'11", 6 feet tall. And so as he reaches me, I get the good power step, and I've got leverage on him, and I'm in pretty good shape still. Only thing is, his head is outside of mine. That's not a fatal mistake. The thing we have to understand is that that head beats me to the outside, because I would rather have it this way than to have him try and jump around that head and get ourselves off balance and get ourselves handled by the tight end. So if I'm here and I'm still pad under pad, and his head is outside of me, here's the V of his neck and his shoulders, I'll just simply long arm and I'll work him this way, and I'll just work outwards and upwards, long arm this, and even though his head's outside of mine, I'm still controlling the leverage on that tight end, and now I'm still eliminating the possibility of that thing turning back inside and causing some kind of a crease. When you run the sweep, if that block gets out there outside of you, if you're the back, if that block gets out there too fast, that gives us exactly what we want in there. So we want to be able to, again, be airtight in this area right here between tight end to tight end. And so we want to bounce that play outside by controlling that 1 yard square and controlling that tight end. I'm not going to worry about getting outside until that ball crosses my face. All right? So that's the reach block. The base block, which we get perhaps on a dive play, they may try and base us and wall us off for an isolation play. So here's my outside backer. He's here. Perhaps he's even trying to work inside out on us. All right. And just for the sake of argument right now, let's say I have a straight tackle next to me. He's the contained player. And so I've got help in my 5 gap. All right. So what I want to do on that, again, power step. All right. So the tackle is here, ball's in there. I power step, and now as I start feeling base, and I start feeling him work to my inside. The thing we want to do is long arm now at the inside and control that man and still control that 1 yard square. All right. That's fundamental. That's square one. The thing we want to coach against is when he starts working his head inside, is take the path of least resistance and now work out. Now I'm walled off. Now I'm really not a factor in the play, and I've created a crease. The type of play that can happen on that is isolation, dive, belly, something along those lines. Okay, if I read isolation, ball's off the line, and basically what they're going to try and do is wall off here and wall off here. Now, I'm aggressive against this man, and I'm aggressive. And now I read isolation. Now I can go ahead and start working into a fall off a squared position where I've got my leverage to the ball on the hip of the ball carrier, and I can start working my way to the A gap or B gap. And I can start working it across this way here. But that's basically on page 2. The big thing is we want to get here, and now if I'm able to read it, to work back to here. I want to avoid doing this because the good back will get here. If I'm here and that thing bounces outside, I'm still in position to recover. But I want to, again, keep my shoulders parallel, get the good power step, keep my shoulders parallel, and keep leverage to the ball. All right, so against an inside-out type of a block or a base block, again, those shoulders being parallel is very, very important, very, very critical. All right, versus the arc block. And typically we associate the arc with an option play, but it can also be a pass release, and it can also be a sprint draw. And so the thing that we want to do now, again, that 1 yard square. So I power step, and he's trying to work his arc release. All right, that 1 yard square goes beyond the line of scrimmage and is also behind me. So as I power step and I start reading arc, now he's outside of me, and he wants to get away from me. He's not really concerned about blocking me, and it is obviously an arc block. Now I just want to come back, stay on his inside hip, and I'm reading the ball. If ball's down the line on the option, then I'll get into my feather technique. If the ball's off the line of scrimmage and it's pass, and depending on our coverage, I'm able to get into my rush or get into my pass drop. If it's a pop pass to the tight end, I'm still in position. I'm buying time for that secondary defender to get in on that play as well. But again, my shoulders are parallel. I'm trying to get that power step. He's avoiding me, so I don't want to chase him. I still have my 1 yard square. I just stay on his inside hip. Now, if it's an option and ball is coming down the line of scrimmage, so I have my arc. Ball's down the line of scrimmage. I'm the quarterback's read on pitch or keep. So now I'm going to get in that feather technique. All right. So now I'm off a yard off the line of scrimmage. And the quarterback is coming to me, and I just want to get some static in my feet, stay square, let him get to me, and just be able to touch him on the stomach. So, for example, if this podium is the quarterback, I just want to be able to get almost into this position where I'm touching him. But again, my shoulders are square. I don't want to turn at him. I don't want to be up here too deep, because a good quarterback will get up inside of you. He'll beat you on that play. Get here and force him to be indecisive. We've run the option and played against the option and played against the people that run it really well, and some people that we've been able to play pretty well against that do run it. And the thing that we've seen is if he's got to think, if he's got any hesitation, now we're winning that play. And so we want to stay square and let him come to us, and that's our feather technique. We've got some other things that we do against the option, but again, I'm talking about square one and very base defense at this point. All right, now, let's say this week we're not playing an option team. There's nothing along those lines. but still, what we want to do on the arc now, we're reading near guard to near back. So it could be a case of where there's a kick out. So as I arc, I read it. Now I'm going to come on and take on the kick out block. All right. We've done it a couple different ways. We've wrong armed it, which is very similar to the trap technique, and we've also played it square. And if we play it square, and if this camera, for example, right now is the kick out block on me, and I'm stepping out and I see it coming, I'm back up inside, anchor my outside leg, and take it on with the inside joints, pad under pad, and constrict that hole. All right? There's pros and cons to everything. If it's a fake and a rollout, this man's still able to control and contain. We've also wrong-armed it, where we read the kick-out block, and now we're going to come across the man's face and force the back to bounce it. All right. Obviously, when you wrong-arm, the outside linebacker is now out of the play. He's not going to be able to recover and get to too many other places. But that's our arc, and that's the arc against the option. All right. The down block, and again, going back to one of our cardinal rules, we want to keep the tight end off the linebacker. All right, so now if we get the down block, and I'm just going to make it really simple. There's a double here, perhaps we're going backside. Again, we want a power step. I'm checking near guard to near back. That near back may be here or here, but whoever the near back is, that's who I'm checking. So now as the tight end blocks down, I'm power stepping my 1 yard square, my shoulders are parallel, I'm looking for near guard. If I get a guard that's going to try and kick me out, I'm stepping low, pad under pad, and I'm going to take him on with the inside joint staying square. All right, the thing, I mentioned the pro of that, the plus of that is he's able to get involved and contain. The downside of that is he gets soft against it, thinking he's going to have to contain. So the rules have to be very clear and very definitive as to what you're trying to do with him. And the number one thing is, we want to, and one of the key rules for the outside backer is to constrict the off tackle hole. Number one, we'll adjust the other stuff. One of our 3 priorities: stop the run, control the pass. Stop the run, don't let him run off tackle. So we want to get down in there hard and be aggressive on that technique. If we wrong arm it, if that's the technique, then we're going to come down and cross his face and pile up that hole and force that back to bounce it and run sideways. Okay? So that's the down block. But keep the tight end off the linebacker, constrict the off tackle hole, checking near guard to near back. All right? Okay, one thing that we used to see, and we don't get it very much anymore, where they just shoot and scramble our legs. All we're doing now is we're reading the tight end. There's our visual key. If he shoots, I'm just putting my hands right down in his back, getting back away, and I'm gone. I'm outside. And typically that's just a quick pitch. One thing that we're getting now, obviously a lot more of than what we were getting several years ago, is just a jet sweep type of action, where now it's an outside play. It's not a downhill handoff sweep. It's not the toss sweep where he's coming downhill. It's strictly geared to get outside as fast as we can. When that happens, what we have to remember is the ball has already crossed our face, and it's not being handed off behind the center, behind the guard. That thing is going on the counter toss in the case of the wishbone, where that back is already in a full head of steam. He's parallel to the line of scrimmage, and he is going outside. In that case now, we want to work and get outside as fast as we can. Okay? But that's one that's really, we spend a lot more time on, and that's something that we pretty much work on just from week to week, depending on who we're playing. Okay? All right. That's basically our front side keys. If we get ball away from us, if ball is away, and I am the 9. In other words, I've got chase contain here. All right? And I read ball away. All right? Now what I want to do, I still power step, control that tight end. He's trying to work inside of me to cut me off, or fight through to cut off a secondary defender. Once I read ball away, I'm getting into a fall-off technique, and that fall-off technique is just a fence right here to 4 yards. And he power steps, he reads ball away, and he is back right here to 4 yards, and then he works on the back edge of the ball until that ball crosses the line of scrimmage and then gets in the pursuit angle. The thing that he has to be responsible for, if he's getting stretched where we're getting a cutoff block here, now he's got contained. The thing that we want to be able to do is if we get some type of action like this, now he's in position to make that play. If he goes too flat, that thing can come back behind him. If he's upfield, now we've got a tremendous crease in there that we can't account for. So we want to get into that fall-off technique behind that fence, and we're staying square again to the line of scrimmage, and now we're just becoming what we are, a linebacker. And we're going to be coming back and staying on the back edge of the ball and then get into our pursuit angle. All right, that's the 9. If we have a 7, if on the 7 technique, and I have a slant tackle to my side, and I read ball away, now I become the chase contained man. I stay ball depth until it crosses the line of scrimmage, and then I get pursuit to the ball. And we're going to pursue on the back hip again until he crosses the line and get the best angle that we can get to the ball. Okay? All right, that's basically our outside linebacker play against the run. Again, we want to keep our list very short. There's very few things that we want to focus on a week-to-week basis. Then after that, then we get into our game plan. But no matter who we play, these base fundamentals, stance, alignment, key, are always fundamental. And we always want to keep our shoulders parallel after we deliver an excellent power step, and then execute those techniques week in, week out, and be great tacklers. And basically that's it. If anybody would like any questions, feel free to contact me at Lakota East High School. Thank you.